Hello everyone and welcome to Facility Design. My name is Stephen Hilborn. Over the last couple days we have had a few classes with all of those who were able to attend in person. This year will just be the first video lecture, just more so about how the course is going to roll out, a couple things that you should know, and then a small video lecture about the first piece of material. So give me a moment. All right, so we're going to go through the course syllabus outline. I like to talk usually as an in-class discussion more about what is your design experience. We will go in an introduction into facility design and then all things, all trends affecting facility design. And there are a lot of those currently happening. And we are what we call in the midst of a polycrisis, but we'll get into that. So when we first talk about facility design, I often ask people, you know, what have you done? What have you done as a design option, maybe in your house or maybe in just an individual room? And it could be as small as changing a light. It can be as little as just changing a paint color, the furnishings, thinking about storage, walking areas, and maybe even just, you know, do I want something open concept and light and airy or cozy? And it's all about what kind of ambiance are you looking for, and what is the workflow or the workflow process required for that area? So when we think about our individual homes, yes, we do have some workflows, which could be cooking and cleaning and laundry and all of those family events. But for the most part, we're looking for ambiance and comfort. Home is where the heart rests, and that's typically what we are trying to do. So we'll go through some of these different options, and we'll apply these kind of concepts to a bunch of different ideas as far as facility design. Now, I'm showing you here, this is Redline Brew House. So this is it's a brew pub in Barrie, and this was one of my design experiences where I was able to go into an empty, essentially a factory kind of setting like this, and we were able to create a brewery as well as a restaurant. And I was actually able to do this layout using the program that we're looking at throughout this program. So this is what the program is. It's called Microsoft Visio. This is kind of just one of the end results of what I was able to do. And as you can see here, as far as this is a commercial restaurant, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about in this particular course will be applied to commercial settings, although all of the lessons and the strategies and everything we speak about can easily be adapted to long-term care, retirement homes, acute care, and other food processing. So when you look at this, just a bunch of high top tables, some booths in the corner. This particular wall that we're looking at here, this is where the brewery is all inside of this, which is kind of fantastic for the guest. I was almost called him resident, for the guest to see into the actual brewery and see it happen. This is your bar area. And then this is the kitchen. And then information on the right-hand side, this is basically just a blow-up, so just a magnification of what the kitchen is, just for you to get an idea of exactly how it's laid out. This is a somewhat open concept kitchen, so there's an open window so everyone can see what's going on that, you know, is sitting in the restaurant. And it's a fairly simple menu, and it only requires a fairly simple layout. So it gives you an idea of how that kitchen is designed. And if you look at this is the bird's eye view of something. And if we just return back to this is what it could actually create. So you have your bar right in the back there. I know it's hard to see. The kitchen would be just over in this corner, booths over in this corner. And then this is the high top table section. And the wall that I mentioned, that's where all the brewery is located within. Okay, so the syllabus. Let me pull up the syllabus for you. So a few things about this course, and really kind of the idea is what I wanted to do is flip the classroom. So I'm not sure if that makes sense to you, but my idea, and I talk about it in the PowerPoint a little bit more, is as this is a in-class / remote course only, online course only, you either have the option of coming to class or doing it on your own. All of the learning can be completed on your own, and I will also post lecture videos like this offering you training on how to use the program. The college is at your disposal, but some of you live in Edmonton, some of you live in the East Coast, or just live in Toronto, and it's just really not worthwhile for you to come up. As it is right now, you all have access to download Microsoft Visio. I will do for next week, I will do a Microsoft Visio training lecture video that you can go through. But really, we learn as we do. You can watch a video as much as you want. You can watch, there's lots of YouTubes out there, but really following the assignment instructions, I usually give you template and really up-to-date directions. So it should be fairly simple to get a hang of this program. So for those of you who are joining me in class, we're actually going to be meeting Tuesday, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then the Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. will only be held for extra group meetings or extra work that you might need and you want a space to do it in. This particular course will be going over just a lot of different food service facilities and how they're laid out, and really how the menu dictates much of how the kitchen is laid out. So the menu might be your blueprint, because every single item on a menu has a cooking process, has items that need to be refrigerated, stored, purchased, processed, etc. So when we look at a menu, and by doing some menu engineering, we should be able to look at all of the items and decide how many times do we need to use a grill, a stovetop, a saute, a deep fryer, an oven, based on all those different menu items. And then from that, we should be able to put together a layout of a kitchen with all of the right equipment. So we're almost going to be doing some reverse engineering, I should say. Instead of having the kitchen and trying to build a menu to it, we'll have the menu and try to understand what the kitchen should look like. I won't go through the learning outcomes. You can read this on your own. This is up under your course information on your Blackboard. Now, I have a lot of in-class assignments, and what I mean by in-class assignments is weekly assignments for those of you who are choosing to do this remotely. I will have all of my postings, all my lecture videos recorded by Monday, and I will give you until Friday to submit. So you'll have 5 days from which I give you the video. Here's the assignment. This is what you're doing this week. Not every single one of these is going to be using the Microsoft Visio. Some might be more research-based. There's a couple that are going to be more designated to menu design and menu engineering. And then there's going to be some that we are designing, full bar, lounge areas, kitchens, cafeterias, and other kind of food service and kitchen makeups. So that'll give you an idea of what we're walking into. I'm also going to talk a little bit about branding packages and positioning, because that's a really important concept when it comes to menu and facility design. Being able to generate revenue and sell yourself, and those are skill sets that can be used in any industry, regardless where you go. So we'll be talking about that as well. As far as midterms, all of our midterms will be midterms and finals, so our testing will be online only on week 6 and week 12. So they're both only worth 15%. It's 30% because the testing is not as valuable in my eyes as all of the little assignments that you'll be creating. The idea of all of these little assignments that you create, they will all slowly scaffold and build your way, so at the very end you are able to do a complete rebrand for an already existing facility. So we're going to use as an example our Georgian dining room, horrible name, and it's just a small restaurant with a kitchen attached to it. I will have the layouts, the measurements, and empty blank floor plans, and it's going to be up to you to redesign and reconfigure both the front of house, back of house, determine the menu, determine menu costing, and also just kind of feel what the theme should be. I'm not gonna make you recreate a menu that has 30 different options. I'm probably gonna reduce it quite a bit, but I feel like this is a very important task for you to do, because it'll help you with menu creation, it'll help you with menu costing, but then it'll also help you apply, if I change the menu, how does that affect the work process within a kitchen? And these are things that, should you work in food services, that you will encounter quite often. as we often have seasonal menu changes. So that'll give you an idea of what's going on. This is worth 30%, and that'll be broken down into, you'll have a portion of this for the layout, a portion of this for a well-designed looking menu, a portion of this is going towards the costing and branding. So it's kind of a project that you'll pick away at throughout the entirety of the semester. I will introduce this as early as I can. I'm just still fine-tuning a couple of the different options. Okay. So that's the syllabus. Now, as far as communication goes, please let me know if you have any questions. My email is on the syllabi. Look it up, email me, especially those of you who are remote. So if you're deciding that I'm gonna take this course all by myself, I think I got it, I can manage, fantastic, and I think you really can. But should you have problems or issues, I am an email away, a virtual meeting away from getting some direction you might be missing. This is typically not a class that people fail too often, but there is a creative aspect to this course. So it's not about memory. It's not about me telling you a bunch of facts and you're memorizing it for an assessment. This is more critical thinking based. Here's the scenario. What do you think you can do with it? So as I mentioned, we're doing a flipped classroom. I'll have all the lectures posted in advance. For those of you who want to come to class, we will work on the assignments together. So I will walk through some of the Visio training that I might have put in a video. I'll talk about some of the different things you need to consider. I'll give you some pieces of advice. I won't tell you how to do it. I won't show you how to do it, but I will support you getting to where you need to go. So my idea is that if you come to class, you do not have any work outside of class other than the major project. If you do not come to class, which is again 100% acceptable, you will just have to kind of self-manage your own time frame and your work schedule to ensure that you get these weekly submissions completed. As always, just because you're a remote student doesn't mean I don't care. So I had all the students sign up for a student membership for the CSNM. I will put that link and the form as well on Blackboard so you're able to do that. If you have any questions about jobs, careers, more schooling, things that you might want to do and you might want some guidance, I run the career fair at the college. I work hand in hand with Travis Durham, who's placing you, and I get emails, maybe not every week, but a couple times a week about, hey, we're looking for food service directors, we're looking for supervisors, we're looking for... Often the issue is that they are at such a level that you as a upcoming graduate aren't ready for yet. But maybe a grad that's 2 or 3 years experience would be ready for. So it's just also another piece of advice just to stay in touch with me, as you never know. Oh no. Sorry, I thought I just lost my recording. Whew. Okay. So let's get into a little bit about what is facility design and why it matters. So first of all, what is the impact of facility design? So basically what we like to think about is it's the science of moving. It's the science of work process. And it's you're moving people, you're moving customers, you're moving employees, you're moving food. You are ensuring that you have to do all of this in a safe environment that does not cause contamination. Also do it safely that does not cause injury, because we are working in places with hot oil, hot stoves, sharp knives, lots of corners, slippery surfaces. So how we design the layout and how much room we give a worker to complete their work processes really matters. And then also there's an employee comfort and customer appeal. So while we are designing working spaces, we're also designing relaxing spaces, dining rooms, ambiance, intimacy, comfortability, and all the lighting and all the processes kind of flip and change completely. So there's almost 2 different ways of looking at this, and we really need to look at the function of these spaces before we start designing. And then another part of this is employees, as far as developing spaces that employees want to work in. So it's been documented that the design and layout of a facility is the key factor. I should say the key factor in determining the success or failure of a business. And we need to know a few terms before we go into this. So when we think about physical, I'm relating that to the material elements. So these are all the things that take up space and must fit in the available space. When it comes to kitchens, we usually look at equipment. And as far as equipment is concerned, there's usually a standard size. So it's usually 30 inches off the ground and 24 to 30 inches wide. And those are great because they're very interchangeable and adaptable. And it's your fridges and your stoves and your freezers and your work tables and your prep tables and all that good stuff. As far as design is, this refers to the broad function of developing the facility. So this is menu, the equipment, the site selection, decor. This is the brand. There's a lot of different design components of it, but it's kind of the feel of the space. And then the layout refers to the process of arranging all of the physical, that they blend in with your design goals, that you increase your operational efficiency. And that is those two words, operational efficiency. They're not sexy, but that's kind of, for anyone in management, that's your job. How do I make job A easier, more efficient, easier on the employee, and I make more money off it? Because as you know, the world, every food cost, labor cost, occupancy cost, tax, you name it, is going up. So, and sometimes we're limited about how much revenue we can generate. The easiest thing to do in a business should be generate more revenue. So if you have a problem, you try to generate more revenue. But if you're limited by seats, you're in a long-term care center, you have 112 rooms, you're maxed out, there's no more revenue. So if you're not increasing revenue, the other thing that you can do is cut costs. There's only those two things. You increase revenue or cut costs. So in government, long-term care, retirement homes, it's typically cut costs. In commercial settings, restaurants, we can always work on increasing revenue. I'm going to try to tell you how to do both. This is just a little layout, little design of a small little, what we would call a quick casual or a fast casual restaurant. So this could be like anywhere that there's counter service and indoor seating. So like it could be like a Subway, I suppose, or McDonald's or something along those lines. But as you see here, they come in, the washroom is quite easily accessible. There's this long counter space with a till and a checkout process. This looks like trays, garbages, ketchup, condiments, etc. You have seating for, 50 or so people. And then you have this lovely layout of this small little kitchen. Now, this kitchen is not an actual real kitchen. You don't see the outdoor, the receiving area. There's limited storage. But it does give you an idea of maybe what we would call the production line or the hot line of where they're cooking everything. So this one is a little bit different, where it seems like this whole production line is kind of back to back here, and that they're going to have probably pass-throughs up to this general area or maybe to this table, and then where the front, the clerk or the customer service person here will combine the meals and serve them out of that way. So I mentioned global polycrisis. It's a brand new word. Never really, if you write it in a Word document, it has a red underline under it. It is not a word that has been technically approved, but it is a word that's in everyone's mouth, because a global polycrisis is what we are in. So it's when crises in multiple global systems become casually entangled in ways that significantly degrade humanity's prospects. So if you're in class, I might ask you a few about those, but these are some of them. So inflation, 7 to 10%, pandemic and health concerns. For a food service operator, this has only caused significant issues, safety concerns, loss of revenue, and increased cost of PPE and plexiglass shields and so on and so forth. Housing crisis, supply chain issues, supply chain issues, labor shortage. Food costs are increasing as well, and food costs are increasing drastically higher than what inflation is increasing. So if you say, okay, inflation is 10% at a high level, Okay, so something I bought for $1 should be $1.10. It isn't. Something you bought for $1 now is $1.50. It's a 50% food cost increase. So this is also a crisis, which I would call greed, corporate greed, which is ruining the world if you ask me, but that's a huge one. Wages are also stagnating. So even though in a world where major corporations are earning never seen before revenue levels, never seen before take-home income, billions and billions of dollars, they are not paying their people more. It's very short-sighted as far as I'm concerned from a corporation level. I don't know why they would be doing this. At the end of the day, how much money do you really need? But this is what's happening. And then the customer. So the customer also has a big demand and a big ask. So they want sustainability now. They want local food. They want healthy food. They want faster food. They want cheaper food. They want safe environments. And after all of those different things, all the hoops that we have to jump through, they also don't want to pay more. So everything that I've just mentioned, that's an impossibility. Like they have to pay more. But we serve a homogeneous product, which means that it is not a signature product. We serve food and you get food anywhere. So typically people that are in a situation where they don't have a lot of disposable income, they buy the cheapest food. So if you raise your prices of your food at your commercial restaurant too much, you simply just will lose business. They will go somewhere else. So it's one of those things that while we try to increase revenue, we're also going to have to really look at covering our costs. And the best way of doing that is operational efficiency. And, something that took 1 minute and 65 steps, let's get it down to 45 seconds and 40 steps. So here's a few of the trends that are really affecting us in the food industry. So first of all, the changes in patterns of eating out. Now, pre-pandemic, more meals than ever were being eaten out. And then once the pandemic hit, the food delivery services have taken over and still remain to this day a very large component of this business. In-person dining has returned. Some are still very cautious about it. And I don't even think that we've seen the true reflection of food costs in a lot of these restaurants. So you might see at a certain point where in-person dining, it's just no longer financially feasible for many, as there has been very little change in disposable incomes. So a lot of the prices and styles of food have had to change, as well as really just the portion sizes if we're still going to present. And you've seen this with everything. Toothpaste, shampoo, chocolate bars, bags of chips, all portion sizes are decreasing because they are unable to raise the price because the perception to the customer. The pandemic, I won't go through all this nitty-gritty stuff. The PowerPoint is up for you to see. What I love about this slide, though, it gives you an idea about just the sales and how many people work in this business. So $800 billion in sales in 2021. 2022 is probably is increased from there. And I think that we have reached our pre-pandemic levels. They haven't come out with the stats for the full 2022 yet. 14.5 million people employed in restaurants, down about 1 million, but I think at this point we're back up to where we need to be. So we have essentially recovered. And a great thing about the restaurant industry, the food service industry, that it is the single greatest employer of minorities, women, single mothers. 41% of restaurant firms are owned by minorities compared to 30% of other businesses. And it is generally the first job for more than about 30% of young adults. It's amazing. As mentioned before, the pandemic has also really impacted food service design and operations. So this is the large amounts of investments in equipment, glass shields and masks, changing of floor plans, reduced seating. This has had a huge impact, but those are things that we can see. What we can't really see is the changes to the workflow patterns, the cost of increased training that everyone has to do, the cost of PPE as well. And then also some of the labor issues that when your people do get sick. So when they do get sick, how long are they off work? it's not a cold, it's not a hangover, it's something that usually takes twice to 3 times as long for them to be able to return to work. So that usually results in having an increased labor force that you need to maintain. There are some big changes in desired menu items. So we have an overall greater concern for physical fitness, well-being. We're steering away from larger conglomerates. We want hormone-free, no antibiotic-free meat, local 100-kilometer diets where possible. Now, we live in Canada. We have seasonalities, and we always have to ship in food. We can't grow everything that we need to. So that being said, that has an increased cost to us. So most menus now offer lighter, healthier fares. Sometimes new equipment and new processes are required. Every time you do a menu change, you should really be looking at how this affects the equipment you currently have, because you can't just assume that you can handle it. Made to order is always kind of preferred now in any kind of sit-down service. But the thing about made to order is that it increases the timelines of people getting their food, and they want fast, they want the same price, and made to order and fresh is just more expensive and not as convenient. We also have a big issue with our labor pools. So labor shortages have now led facility designers to start building places that are easy and attractive to work in. So I've often brought this up. So if you want to work at a Starbucks, or do you want to work at a Coffee Time? So they're two similar work environments. It's a cafe. You serve coffee and donuts, and there's a baking program, and sandwiches and soups. It's mornings and lunch mostly, and they all have a similar pay rate. But Starbucks has a lineup and a stack of people that want a stack of resumes that people want to work for them, and Coffee Time can't get anyone to work for them. Tim Hortons is in the middle there, and it's nothing about what they are or the benefit to the staff. It's about brand. It's about positioning. It's about marketing. It's about color schemes. It's about having staff lounges and air-conditioned kitchens and certain washrooms, and bright and cheery, and just the feel of this particular place over another one. Starbucks is old. It's been around for a long time. They make a lot of money. I think they made $28 billion last year. But they do so because they have a great brand. And it's the same reason you're probably on your Apple phone right now, or your Samsung phone. It's all about branding. As we spoke about some sustainability issues, so customers have a demand for sustainability. Canada has signed the UN 2030 Accord, which is the 17 Sustainability Development Goals, which means that if you sign it up at government level, all businesses kind of underneath it need to start adopting some of these. So either they're going to be urged, or they're going to be getting grants and funds in which to do so. So when you do a facility design, if you're designing something from scratch, that is 100% the place to start, because you are able to design something easily. Retrofitting is more difficult, but that's also something that can be done. So one thing that we'll look at is LEED. So who is LEED? It's a Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. What you don't know is that all the new Tim Hortons that are built are a LEED qualified building, which means that they have a reduced impact on ecosystems. They use recyclable materials. They have water efficient systems, they energy efficient strategies, and indoor air quality. So these are some of the things that we think about. And it's trending and will not be going away. The Fixing Long-Term Care Act, as you probably know, has a big economic play on some of the long-term care. So what we are supposed to be able to do is be able to provide food for all residents in long-term care at $11 per day for raw food. This doesn't include equipment costs, labor costs, operational, heat, hydro, etc. But it does, you have $11 to feed per person. I know I couldn't live on $11 per day in food. I think I've already broken, the bank on that. So that's something to keep in mind. And this Fixing Long-Term Care Act which I've misspelled here, sorry. It is going to be something that you will always have to understand. So it is here. There's a good article about it linked in the PowerPoint, as well as I have the Fixing Long-Term Care Act posted up on Blackboard for you. And then technology, and I often joke in class, by the time you're reading the slide, technology has already evolved, and this is somewhat useless. But as you probably know, we have lots of different technology that is incorporated into food service, and this could be, as simple as iPad menus and QR codes to pull up the menus, inventory systems, different ways of paying, ordering online, making reservations online, marketing, so online social media. If you're not having a social media or online marketing, digital branding strategy, you're not marketing. The direct mail and things like that really don't work anymore. And what's the last time you went on a Wendy's website to see what kind of burger is coming out next? You don't. So social media is 100%. A digital presence is 100% the way that these people go. And then also like new equipment and new different ways in which to cook food. So that's a big thing, and we will talk about that a little bit more in detail. But when we think about facility design, there are new pieces of equipment that can reduce your total floor print requirement because they can do multiple different processes. But then when you also think about technology, every single commercial restaurant now has to have a Skip the Dishes, DoorDash, Uber Eats, and maybe their own generic delivery system, which means they have 3 or 4 telephones or iPads that these things ring, and they need more space to put together all of these delivery items. So when you are thinking of a design, you need an area for that specifically that's kind of outside the regular service. I won't go into this right here. It was just kind of a repeat. And a few things that we think about, which are fascinating in mine, is also the customer's idea of what dining out is. So it's a little bit different, maybe in long-term care retirement homes, but still, these still apply. Where in 2004, based on a lot of research, they say, if you sit in 7% of the time, you ask to be moved somewhere else. You spend about 8 minutes looking at the menu, 4% of the time you send it back. It takes around 65 minutes in which to actually eat your meal. Now, they move only 10 years ahead. So this is almost another 10 years from the stats I'm looking at. So customer walks in and is seated, given menu, 40% of the time they want to go somewhere else. Before they open their menus, their phones are out, they're taking photos, they're texting, they're not really paying attention. It might take them 21 minutes by the time they order their actual food. The food arrives, almost 60% of them spend 3 minutes taking photos of their food. 31% take photos of other people's food. That's another 4 minutes. 20% of people send their food back. 1/5 of people send their food back. 50% of people ask servers to take a group photo. Average time, about double. So if you're thinking that you're a food service operations manager, and either you have a limited window in which to serve everyone, or you have a limited window in which to get as many butts and seats and flip those tables to make as much money as you can, the way in which they eat is very impactful. We will go through in a very minor level what are the requirements to build a lot of food service operations. So this could be the planning department, what is code, liquor license, municipal restaurant license, capacity based on fire inspections, enforcement services, things like this, but more so just from a general knowledge standpoint. And then a few things that we have to keep in consideration is that not all food service operation will look and feel the same depending on where that we put them. So if you are in a downtown commercial facility, often restaurants try to cater to the downtown tight timelines for lunch. You have 1 hour for lunch, and you're probably walking distance to this place. Many downtown restaurants are built more vertically because we pay per square foot of space horizontally. And so if you're paying for a lot of space, you have to therefore charge a lot of money. Whereas a suburban restaurant which I would consider Barrie. It's kind of a bedroom community. They draw from a larger radius, a larger geographical radius. They have people that will drive to them, whereas in a downtown restaurant, most will walk or take streetcars or subways. In a suburban restaurant, people drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes to go out for a bite to eat. You require good transportation routes and ample parking. So it's just a little bit different. And then shopping centers are good examples of high traffic, ample parking, therefore more expensive rent. Schools and universities are also the same. High traffic, ample parking, you pay a lot of rent if you're a third party. Some schools and universities run their own. Sometimes they will have a centralized kitchen system with a lot of different satellite or pop-up locations around campus. I know for us at campus at Georgian College, we have student-run facilities, which are poorly marketed, which is why we're doing that major project, and the best quality of food and nutrition that you can get. Then we have our cafeterias or Tim Hortons or Pizzas or Subways. And they do a fine job. People eat and drink and are fed, but not necessarily in the way that we would want them to be. And you don't need to look very far to see how some people do it, where, as an example, at a Honda car facility where they're making 1,200 cars a day, they have a subsidized cafeteria program. Everything just comes off your paycheck. It's very, very inexpensive food, and it's very, very nutritious food, because they've realized that workers need calories, fat, sodium, they need nutrition in order to be a good worker. Whereas in a school, they have generally unhealthy options because it's quick and it's easy and it's branding and that's what people want to buy. So it's a little bit different there. Hospital and healthcare centers, they are unique as they must cater to staff, employees, visitors, guests, and patients. So we have all kinds of different moving parts. There's a lot of maybe room service style eating. So patients dining require food trolleys and elevators. So you're traveling with food and you're trying to get it to them hot and fresh. There is cafeterias for guests. There might be significant more upscale places for surgeons and doctors. So usually it's a centralized kitchen where everything comes out of one area, but how that looks is quite complicated depending on how many different places you must feed or different styles of food delivery. And then correctional facilities. Now, this is not one that we're actually going to be going into too much in depth. This is a whole different level of design where safety is number one, and managers are typically located centrally raised off the floor. What they try to do is not have very large eating areas, because having more than, let's say, 100 people in the room, it can be a potentially aggressive environment with a lot of people that don't like each other. So often what they don't have open kitchens to the point where there's eye contact allowed. So basically they can have their tray, but they won't have any eye contact with the people that are serving them. All equipment under lock and key, no drawers, security storage areas, limited face-to-face interaction. And they might have smaller dining areas that work concurrently, or one small dining area that works on a tight schedule. So you're in for breakfast, you have half an hour, the 100 go out, and then 100 more come back in, and you do something like that. So that is it for our first week. It's basically just what are trends, what's happening out in the industry there, and how do they impact facility design. Next week, we'll do our Visio training and our first in-class assignment, so look for that on Monday. I will also, if it's complete, and I just want it to look really perfect before I hand it out to you, we will start introducing the major project. You can work on this independently or with a partner or two. I'm going to confirm exactly how I want this to look, but what it will be is a rebrand and redesign of an already existing establishment. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching all 39 minutes and 36 seconds of me ramble on. As your coordinator, it's a pleasure to see you in class, but please stay in touch if you choose to go the remote line. I still want to be able to support you and give you pieces of advice. And should you want a virtual meeting, I am here for you. All right. So thank you very much, and we will see you soon.